Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Anam Saeed and welcome to Perspectives by Impetus. And today I'm feeling a bit emotional because शायद आपको पता ही हो कि पाकिस्तान में कुछ ऐसी डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स भी हैं जहाँ 10 में से एक लड़की को मौका मिलता है कि वो सिर्फ इतना सीख सके कि अपना नाम कैसे लिखना है, अपना नाम कैसे पढ़ना है. Basic literacy rate is even below 20% in districts of Balochistan and in southern KP. When it comes to female labor force participation, it's only 24%. 10 में से 2 लड़कियों को मौका मिलता है कि वो एक्चुअली जाके जॉब कर सकें, कुछ हुनर सीख सकें और कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकें सोसाइटी की तरफ. That's the state of the economy and we really want to talk about this. And we are starting a series on women empowerment, youth empowerment. And we want to, invite thought leaders, consultants, people who have worked in the sector to talk about this issue. From a perspective, not just as a policymaker, but people who are working in the corporate sector to discuss how we can actually move the needle. And today we have Ms. Kamila Marvi with us. She's the Executive Director for British Asian Trust, CEO रह चुकी हैं आहंग फाउंडेशन की, and I'm super excited to have her. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Anam. Thank you for having me.
Sorry for being emotional.
Not at all. I get emotional too, so it's a
Yes.
powerful topic.
Exactly. And we have seen our women, our mothers, our sisters struggling as well. So I wanted to ask you, आपकी journey कैसी रही? And why did you get into this topic? Why did you get into this struggle to work for women empowerment? You could have easily made your way, abroad आप काम कर सकती थी, maybe as a consultant somewhere else. Why this particular issue?
It's interesting the way you pose the question, because when you pose it like this, I think I get it from my father. So my father was a corporate sector. He used to be with Unilever. Mm-hmm. And he was always very devoted to the country and the development of the country. And I think it was those morning chats going to school with my father which really built that passion to do something for the country and for the women of Pakistan. My mother, on the other hand, was involved for a short while with Women's Action Forum, etc. So I think it came from my parents.
Wow.
But at the same time, my own studies have been in public policy, in public health. Mm-hmm. So those are the reasons why I've landed where I have right now.
Okay, great. And, sorry, I don't want to probe you a lot, but one question that comes to my mind is कि ठीक है, you've been working in this sector, you're focusing on women empowerment, आप इसके ऊपर काफ़ी काम कर चुकी हैं. Do you actually see, a change over the years, that you have brought some change, not, individually, but we as a society? Or are we actually, going backwards?
So you're talking to someone who always sees the glass as half full.
Okay.
So you'll always see positive from me. I'll give you an example. I think things have changed, mm-hmm. okay? When we first started, when I first started working in the sector, I remember sitting outside government offices for 2 hours, mm-hmm. waiting just to get a meeting in. Government would not engage on these subjects. They did not feel it relevant. They were busy doing their own things. Today, we work in partnership with governments.
Okay.
At every level, you have a willingness to at least engage. I think there's a long way to go.
Yes.
No doubt, but I think things have changed. Mm-hmm. You see the change in the communities. You see women also willing to engage, yes. and to come out. You see women in the professional sphere. There's a long way to go again, but you do see those role models in place. So yeah, I think things have changed.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Kamila. मेरे साथ एक आज बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट मौजूद हैं टू टॉक अबाउट वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट, बिकॉज मुझे लगता है हम वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट के बारे में बात नहीं कर सकते जब तक हमारी आवाम के मर्द आवाज़ ना उठाएं, राइट? बिकॉज वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट के बारे में जब इट्स ओनली द वुमेन हु आर टॉकिंग, पीपल थिंक maybe not everyone knows about it. Maybe not everyone is acknowledging the fact that, yes, there is some struggle that we need to talk about. But we do have some thought leaders, some corporate sector leaders who actually are genuinely, talking about this issue, discussing it with their peers and actually doing something on ground. और उनमें से ही एक शख्स आज मेरे साथ मौजूद है स्टूडियो में जो बात करेंगे हमारे साथ. हबीब यूसुफ साहब मौजूद हैं. He was the head of strategy for HPL. वो currently city country officer हैं. He is not just, a very big name in the corporate sector, but he is somebody who is willingly choosing to talk about pertinent issues about the country. And that's why I'm super happy to have him here. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Glad to be here.
So my question to you is, can you tell us firstly a bit about your journey as a banker? Like, how did you get into this sector? आप कैसे यहाँ तक पहुँचे जहाँ आप हैं आज?
Accidentally. I think in one word that comes to mind.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. I studied at BVS, Parsi High School.
Okay.
I got into DJ Science College, pre-engineering, thinking I'll become an engineer or an architect at some point. I got admission at the IBA,
Okay.
and I joined that particular organization and institution. Graduated, I got a job at Citibank, and I became a banker. So that's how I got into banking. First job at Citi in corporate banking in Karachi. 2.5 years of relationship management that I did there with local clients primarily, local corporate groups. I got an opportunity to join a startup called Global Securities, which was being set up by senior colleagues within the local corporate group who were leaving Citibank to set up an investment banking, stockbroking firm. I felt it's a good opportunity for me to try to explore investment banking, which was everybody wanted to do at that time. Capital markets in the early 90s were really moving forward in Pakistan. And I felt it was the right career move to then take that plunge, leave a banking career with Citibank, more structured environment, and join an organization that was just starting out. That turned out to be a great experience. We did some of the largest privatizations in the country, whether it was PTCL, HPL, UBL. We were there in all of those transactions. We did some IPOs as well at that time. Very rewarding career, which also saw me then looking after the entire company, the entire operations of the company for a few years before I joined NIB Bank.
Okay.
Which brought me back to mainstream banking.
Okay.
Because prior to that, it was mostly investment banking, stockbroking. I came back into corporate banking, spent about 4-5 years with NIB, focused on corporate banking, investment banking, and managing the FI business. Then I joined HBL.
Oh, wow.
Initially, not as head of strategy, but as the head of financial institutions business for HBL. A year and a half into that, I was asked by senior management to consider moving to Dhaka.
Okay.
To be the RGM responsible for Bangladesh and Afghanistan, but based out of Dhaka for HBL, which I took over, which turned out to be one of the most challenging times of my life, in the sense that you're coming from an organization like HBL in Pakistan, market leader, largest private bank, best talent in the country, biggest bank, and you end up going to a branch of HBL in a country where there are 60 other banks. You're just one of the smallest banks with a very small footprint, and you're trying to compete and build business through that. And you have no connection with Bangladesh. I've never been to Bangladesh, no relationships with anybody. So everything had to be done from scratch to build those relationships up with clients, etc., regulator, managing the team, filling some of the gaps that were there in the team. And that sort of really brought me out of my comfort zone. I came back to Pakistan with HBL as head of strategy, role which I did for about a year and a half before the organization I was in before I joined Citi, which is now called British International Investment. They were looking for a country director for Pakistan. I applied, got the role, spent about 3 years as country director for Pakistan, and then took over regional responsibilities covering South Asia, excluding India, but that sort of brought my Bangladesh experience back, because I was now looking after Bangladesh along with Nepal and Sri Lanka and Pakistan, based out of Karachi. And then one day, I get a call saying this position, my current position is open, and I should consider applying. And here I am, back to where I started from, after spending several years in the wilderness, but coming back to the organization which took the first risk on me.
Oh, wow. And so that makes me question this, that do you actually draw meaning from what you do? Or do you think that it's actually like a tool that can help you to draw meaning from something else? Please take your time, take a pause, think about it.
No, it's a very interesting question, and it changes from time to time in one's career. initially you look at jobs as something to earn a living.
Yes.
And gets you from day to day, week to week, month to month,
Exactly.
year to year, and that's your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start looking for meaning in your
Bilkul
job
aise.
as
Mm-hmm.
well, where you want to look for opportunities that you enjoy doing firstly, and that are contributing to the wider development of the country as
Bilkul.
well. So it all depends on where you are in your career, what the opportunities are in front of you, and what you want to be doing at any given point in time.
Yes.
For you able to get to that particular question responded to. So I hope I've answered your question in a long-winded way.
Yes. Not long-winded, but a very philosophical way.
Okay.
So you actually wanted to be a part of this panel discussion on women empowerment. And to be honest, Habib, I worked in the public sector for 12 years. और जब भी women empowerment की बात आती है तो I don't see a lot of men volunteer. Why did you do that? Why do you want to talk about this issue? Why do you
Well-
think that this is a pertinent topic that we need to talk about?
Well, there's a personal reason for this also. I'm a father of 3 daughters.
Oh, wow.
My mother had a very important role to play in my journey up so far. My wife has been there throughout this period, supporting me
Mashallah.
in doing that. So there are these 3 daughters, powerful sort of women around me at all times. So hence that's the personal reason.
Mm-hmm.
So anything to do with barriers that restrict women progress in whatever they're doing is something that's quite personal to me now.
Yes.
And it's not something that I used to think about previously in my previous roles. But as you become older, as you become a father, as you develop experiences, working in different organizations, interacting with different people, your perspectives on life change.
Yes.
Some of those perspective changes, again, change because you get challenged
Bilkul.
on why are you not focusing on these attributes? Why are you not focusing on women empowerment? Why are these issues being left on the side?
Yes.
And then you start thinking and you start looking at it, not just from the perspective of filling numbers
Yes.
of women in the workforce, but actually on what women bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity of thought is an area where initially we don't really consider much.
Yeah.
But then as you grow older, you start realizing that if you keep talking to the same set of people
Yes.
who have similar background to you, who have a similar set of experiences to you,
Mm-hmm.
you'll only come up with solutions that everybody's used to. So if you don't have a wider perspective in general, whether
Yes.
it's coming from women, whether it's coming from people from different social backgrounds to you, different educational backgrounds to you, different cultures to you, you don't get the right responses.
Okay, great. And that also felt very personal because हम भी 3 बहनें हैं. So I've gone through the struggle. I've seen my father also, finally understanding what first-hand experiences are when your daughters are suffering.
Yeah.
So I can completely relate to that. Thank you so much for, volunteering to be a part of this panel discussion.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Again, I'm super excited. Actually, I feel like a fangirl right now because हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं सीमा कामिल. She's a big name when it comes to inspiring young women to actually think about, adding value in the professional world. वो एक बहुत मेजर बैंक UBL की प्रेसिडेंट रह चुकी हैं, फर्स्ट फीमेल प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ अ मेजर बैंक इन पाकिस्तान. शी वाज द डेप्यूटी गवर्नर फॉर स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान. And the fact that she has been working for women empowerment, she wants to speak about it, she wants to talk about it, it just makes me feel so happy कि हमारे पास इस मुल्क में ऐसी ख़वातीन मौजूद हैं जो कि ना सिर्फ हमें इंस्पायर करती हैं बल्कि हमारे इश्यूज़ के बारे में बात करना चाहती हैं. एंड दैट also from a lens where she has seen the world, she knows the data in and out, she has data points, she has experience about it. So yes, let's welcome her. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you, Anam.
I just wanted to know about your journey, and to be honest, this is like a personal question as well. I really
Yes,
want to know about
yes.
your journey.
So, I can tell you I just sort of fell into banking.
Okay.
It was never my amazing passion.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came back from studying in the UK, actually I wanted to work for development. Right?
Okay.
Development economics was what I really wanted to do, but I had an MBA. I did go to a government office, and at that sort of young age, I found them very daunting.
Really, how?
Because of the way they were and the way they were sitting, and it was very bureaucratic, and this was way back, right? Mid 80s or a little bit so on. So everything was very different then. And so I went, I'll talk about it later as well in the podcast. I then started working with a bank, which I left almost immediately, and I will tell you why later when we talk about things. And then I worked for other banks, and it was American Express Bank, followed by Standard Chartered, Standard Chartered Grindlays really. Then I went to Lahore with them. Then I went to Australia with the same bank, owner, which was the ANZ Bank. I came back to Standard Chartered, always in business roles. Then I went to Habib Bank, HBL, as I should correctly say. I spent 16 years. The best 16 years of my working life, very honestly. I was treated like a princess there, honestly, and encouraged me, mentored me. I did the head of corporate banking. I then did the head of branch banking, which was 2,000 branches, where I really got to know the country very well, and I got to know women's issues very well also in branches and what they kind of face when they are at junior levels, right? From harassment to not being taken seriously and all of that. From there, I got a call from the owners of United Bank, and I moved there as CEO, which was an experience in itself. That period was a crisis-filled period for the bank. Many things happened, and I learned quite a lot in that period, which was different for me, frankly. It was to do with international branches, and for example, there was one year when I went 8 times to New York, just for 2 days back, 2 days, that kind of thing. A lot of learning. And then from that to Deputy Governor, State Bank, where I looked really after financial inclusion.
How did that switch come? Sorry, this is a genuine question.
My contract finished at UBL, and the then governor, Dr. Raza Bakir, he was very kind, and I talked to him, and I said, I would love to work for the State Bank. And he actually found the role for me, but it was approved by the cabinet, because that's how it works at the State Bank. And that was another role that I tremendously enjoyed. Because we were into digital, we were into financial inclusion, women inclusion. At that time, the Banking on Equality policy was launched. And I have to pay credit to the team that worked on that for 2 years, and also the push that Dr. Raza Bakir gave to that. And so then I retired about 3 years ago. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the time. So I went through a couple of years which were a little difficult. I'm cancer-free now.
Mashallah.
Got over all of that, and now I'm on several boards. So it's not as if I do nothing. I'm actually a very busy person. I'm on several listed company boards. Like Jazz World, Askari Bank, Jubilee General. Also the RAST board. I'm also on the SECP policy board. And I work also for breast cancer for women with the Daud Foundation, and I also work for a disability NGO, not really an NGO, but its work is to do with disabled persons, now PDP, and of course I work with Karachi Grammar School. So I have a full plate.
Wow, mashallah. And I was just going to say that I can see a lot of optimism, and there's this vibe where I see a lot of positivity in the way you speak.
I think things are getting better for women, perhaps slowly at places. Perhaps the difficulties remain, but I think they do in every part of the world. It still remains a man's world in many ways, and I don't think any woman will deny that. But there are more and more younger women here in Pakistan at every role. So I'm hopeful that they will come up.
Inshallah, inshallah. Ma'am, just one quick question. You started in the mid-80s, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure कि उस वक्त not a lot of women actually were a part of the labor force who were actually contributing to the economy. And
Yes.
so was it that, you know, you had a very privileged background that where your family was very supportive that you should go out and work? Or was it your own will that you wanted to actually
my
just...
family was very supportive.
Achha, mashallah.
In fact, my mother, my late mother, even when we had holidays and I was doing nothing, she said, idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? So she would send me to learn accounting. She once sent me to learn typing. You know, she would do these things. So I came back and I was immediately sent here and there to look for jobs.
Okay.
So the family support, later on my husband's support,
Mashallah.
that was a big thing. And also I have to admit that I went to the best schools here and that helps. That helps in
course.
your confidence, but I'll talk about it later. I was the shyest person on God's earth. Honestly, I was. My friends from school who know me now probably say, you talk so much now. You never spoke before. So that's some internal change that I made. I will agree, I must say, with God's help, because that's important to me.
That's true. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have all three our panelists here today with us to discuss women empowerment. जैसे कि हम बात कर चुके हैं कि पाकिस्तान में ख़वातीन को किन मुश्किलात का सामना होता है when it comes to not only getting an opportunity to be productive, to contribute to the economy, but also, you know, to get access to basic necessities. And I've introduced the panel already. आप तीनों, you know, you guys are seasoned professionals, more than 3 decades of experience. मैं आप सबसे ये पूछना चाहूँगी, when you guys were working, you know, with banks के साथ आप काम कर रहे हैं, you were, you know, the CEO of Ahang Foundation. When was actually that moment where you thought that things needed to change?
Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm keen on this question, and I have a couple of personal things to relate on this. So as soon as I came back from the UK, I got a job at a foreign bank. I was very happy. I was part of the management trainees, and I got there. And then I talked to the male colleagues. I was the only female in that cohort, as they call them now. And I discovered that I was being paid half that what they were being paid.
Oh, God.
Okay? And that they were a certain level of officer, they got some air conditioner in their home or something else, and I did not.
Oh, okay.
And having just come back from the UK, I was a more radical feminist than I'm at heart still one, but perhaps not so radical. So I went home. I was very upset. The next day I went to see the CEO, and he was very nice. I opened door, and I said, "Why is this?" And he said, "Well, it's for traditional reasons, because women often leave, and we don't invest that much in them." I went home. I was just furious, right? So the day after, I wrote a letter of resignation, actually saying that they were not treating women equally. I used that word, and used the word gender. Okay. And I sent in my resignation in my princess style with my driver.
Okay.
Okay, and that was the end of that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so the first job just evaporated in about a week. And the other incident, the earlier one I've spoken about several times, but the other one I haven't, and I would now like to. In another foreign bank, I was, again, it was just pretty soon after this, and I was a management trainee on the corporate floor, which is like relationship managers, right? And I was to visit clients and get business. Okay. So I visited one client, and throughout he was showing me some premises as well, and I could sense that he was, that his mind was on something else. And finally, when we got to the end of the meeting, he actually did something which would classify as sexual harassment.
Oh, God.
Okay. I ran out of that place. I sat with my driver. I was angry but not upset. I was extremely angry. I got back to my office. I went to my immediate boss, the corporate head of the time, and I said to him that this has happened to me. And he said, Acha, this is not a good thing. Magar, I'll go into Urdu if that's okay. मगर इसकी बात किसी से करना नहीं.
क्यों?
क्योंकि बैंक का नाम खराब होता है वगैरह. तो it was what you would call मिट्टी पाव, right? And I was young at the time, impressionable, and I thought I've left one job, I can't leave another one. And so I stayed. But this is something I want to, actually, it's the first time I've talked about it in public. But I think it's important to know that this thing, some form of harassment, perhaps not that, has happened to most women that I know. And I just wanted to make that public. Now there are rules, regulations. It's still very difficult for women to speak up, particularly from certain backgrounds. Somehow there's always victim blaming, always victim blaming. It still is here and everywhere. I'm not saying it's our culture. She wore clothes like this, she walked like that. So she brought it on herself. But I just wanted to bring it up because it happened to me. And I would just like to encourage anyone who's hearing to take that if they can possibly help it. And I understand the circumstances where family reputation comes in because you've spoken up. Those things are awful. But if you can speak up, you must. And you must not let anyone say, just keep quiet about it. Now the rules in organizations will not permit anyone to say this now. But in those days, back in the day, in the late 80s, you could say that. So that's just what I wanted to share.
No, thank you so much for sharing that because, it reminded me of so many weird instances
Yes.
I personally have faced. And I have been one of those people who have actually talked about it openly with everyone, even younger girls, because I think अगर हम नहीं उन्हें बताएंगे तो उन्हें नहीं समझ आएगा. And I actually left one of my jobs because of the same reason, because of repeated harassment. And I feel कि अब ये लोग बहुत बात करते हैं कि you never talked at the time. And मैम के बारे में भी लोग ये कह सकते हैं कि उस वक्त बात क्यों नहीं की, अब आके 3 साल बाद 10 साल बाद, why are you talking about this now when you faced it at that time? Because it needs immense strength to talk about.
And may I say something? I asked my husband if I should speak about it. Really? And that shows the cultural pull down, right? And so, yes.
And can I add something? Well, I was sort of many years ago, we got a group of women together to really talk about harassment and etc. And it was a group of empowered women, because these were women from non-profit sector, they were working women, all, 70 to 80% of those women spoke about personal experience.
Yes.
And these were not stared at on the street typing. This was serious incidences where every single woman had been threatened in this way. So it's extremely pervasive.
It's
So
highly.
if no women are talking about it, it's just because they're not talking about it. It's not because it's not happening.
Yes, of course.
So absolutely. And thank you, Seema, for sharing that.
And there is this fear, right? So there is this fear that agar aaj maine complain kar di, to kal I might not have a job and I won't be able to make that earning. And for some women, it is that money that's running the house, right? So they can't take that risk. And so I'm really, really grateful.
Thank you.
Topic pe baat ki. So I don't want to make this conversation very emotionally charged.
No, of course.
Thank you so much for
No,
discussing
no.
that. And what about you?
So I think I've been lucky because I'm in a sector which has very strong female leadership. So I've been super lucky to have been part of Women's Action Forum, seen very powerful women go out on the streets, march, raise their voices for issues. I've personally been lucky to be mentored by somebody who was a very powerful woman who went out, who was very much an advocate for communities and for community empowerment. Name was Kausar. So I've had strong female role models, and I think that's been great for me. But just to, you ask about change,
Yes.
just to highlight that change, I remember in my early days when I used to go out, I used to work with AKU in their community-based programs. And I remember going to places like Thar, Badin,
बिल्कुल
and being told कि आपको कैसे आने देते हैं आपकी फैमिली आपके भाई आपके वालिदैन कैसे आपको आने देते हैं I used to explain कि नहीं हमारे it's okay my parents are quite proud of the work I do and they encourage it and so on. 10 years later, I remember going back to some of these same places and seeing that the same organizations had female accountants, female leadership. So I see that change happening. And I really do think the non-profit sector does play that role of, having to talk the talk and walk the talk as well, where if they're talking about women's empowerment, then they've got to practice it. So I think those opportunities are there for that change to happen. Not enough, but I think our sector, we're lucky that we have those role models.
Yes, and especially since I worked in polio. So I was the TA team lead for polio for a longer time. I worked in South KP. I worked in Sindh. And I was so happy to see when I work with those female, frontline workers. जब आप उनके साथ जाते हैं सड़कों पे, the way they engage with people, अपनी communications पे काम कर रही हैं. So you actually see कि ये, they're risking their lives for these children. But it is also good to see that women are a part of the workforce there, right? That way. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. और Habib, आपसे तो मतलब ये सवाल मैं तो ज़रूर पूछना चाहती हूँ because the fact that जैसे मैंने पहले भी आपसे कहा था कि बहुत rare होता है कि men volunteer to talk about such issues. When did you realize that this needed to change?
Well, being a father of 3 daughters is a great eye opener in looking at these issues with a different lens. Because again, when we started out early 90s, I think the era that Seema's talking about, you weren't really thinking about women empowerment. Nobody was even talking about it at that time. You were not thinking about it. You just joined the organization, you went with the culture, you went with the flow, and you continued doing what you were doing, what others around you were doing, and you keep following that path, surviving to the next week, the next month, the next year, and getting those paychecks in, because that's what you were conditioned to do. The realization that opportunity is not equal comes when you start looking at things differently.
Okay.
And that happens, when, as I said, you become a father, suddenly you're thinking about your own family. You're talking to colleagues who may have had similar experiences and how you reacted at that time, perhaps what wasn't the right reaction. You also you attend training sessions that sort of drill the need for creating conditions, the right conditions for working women. And you start paying more closer attention to it because, as I said, becomes very personal.
Yes.
So that's, I guess, my story on this.
So when you say कि आपने अपने colleagues से बात की, they sort of have similar experiences, and you're working in the banking sector, you have this whole community of people, of leaders from the banking sector. Did you get the support for this particular issue? And if not, or if you did, in both cases, what sort of support is needed to actually, work on women empowerment to scale up? मतलब not just in silos में जैसे आप बात करें या मैं बात करूं silos में, but to actually work on the issue in a way that it affects more women positively.
I can give you an example. Again, we talk about corporate banking. Seema talked about the need to go and meet clients. Now, some of us are fortunate that we had drivers, others who could take us from meeting to meeting. But imagine a young female relationship manager who had to go and meet clients and then had to rely on public transport to get there. Then automatically you're making it difficult. You're not giving them the tools to be able to do their job in a way it's supposed to be done. Now, you can't make that change at the time that no one is listening to you. You can only do it when you're in a situation where you can look at those challenges and make a difference. And that happens much later in life as you get that responsibility and get the authority to make those changes. So then you create that space. You provide the infrastructure, you provide the support for your female colleagues to be able to then go and meet clients, at least get there. You need to then make sure that, again, because these instances could happen with anyone, that they are getting the right level of support, the right level of training to be able to manage situations when they do occur. So I think those are the types of things that, again, as you gradually, have the right authority, responsibility, and B, are in a position to affect those changes that you do.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure the fact that, I meet you guys and I meet so many people who talk about these issues now and who are very passionate about it, and not just from one particular sector, even from the government. I do see a lot of support coming in from policy perspective. But I do see still there are some obstacles, there are some obstructions, जिनको हम अभी तक fully, समझ भी नहीं पाए, from a policy perspective, from a layman's perspective, from a woman's perspective who wants to be a part of the labor force, right? So, आपके हिसाब से, since you have so much experience and I really want to learn from you, वो सबसे बड़ा obstacle या सबसे बड़ी obstruction या blocker क्या है when it comes to women empowerment? And, you can take a pause, think about it, because I've been thinking about it for my whole life, कि क्या है? And would really love to know your thoughts on it.
Okay, so if I start, I'll say that, people say, and they quote, that 25% of our women are in the labor force, right?
Yes.
And I would like to dispute that number, first of all, before I actually go on to the blockers. If you look at our economy, it is a highly undocumented economy, right? People give figures for the informal economy, but perhaps it's the same size, they say. They gather data to do that. I will not hazard a guess, but it's certainly large. Okay, 51% of adults are working in agriculture. Almost every single woman who is in the agricultural economy works. Absolutely. Our dairy sector is bigger for our economy than the crop from GDP.
Yes.
Women look after all the livestock, except for a little bit of corporate farming. The rest are all women. Okay, so that 25% figure, all working extremely hard. They look after that. They look after the vegetables. Honestly, one of the jokes I often make is कि आदमी चारपाई पे बैठ के हुक्का पीते हैं. If you go anywhere, you will see this. And the women are laboring for vegetables, for the livestock, for hens, for babies, and so on. So that's there. Okay, you come to the urban economy. Thousands upon thousands of women go out to work every day.
Yes.
They clean homes. They look after children. Mostly it's cleaning or maid work. They go out in groups. They don't just go to the elite. They even go to middle-income homes and lower middle-income homes just to cook a little thing or make some chapatis. So isn't that economic participation and being part of the labor force? But if I come back to your question, how do we get this number up? There is one thing that's missing, and that is their financial identity. They are invisible. They are invisible to everyone. And maybe most people, they don't think about them. Many of us don't think of them as working women. They are working women. But we don't think of them as working women because they don't have a financial identity. And that is what they truly need. But they go one step beyond it. There's a lot of good work the government is doing now and on the cashless economy, right? And on digital. They're doing all of this work and it's very good. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, what do we offer the women if they get documented, right? And that's the key question. And what will they get out of it, right? There's only one thing they want from that financial identity, and that is loans and credit. They want to have a house. They want to maybe buy a motorbike for their son. They want education. Mm-hmm. So until we can meaningfully provide that, they will not want to be documented, much as we may like, because some of them may be earning something that becomes taxable. for example, right? So I think that has to be worked on, and I think work is being done. I'm positive about that. But we have to think that they will get documented and be part of it if they see something in it for themselves.
Exactly. So even if a woman volunteers to be a part of, the
If she gets a financial identity,
Yes.
which is basically a bank account, okay, she can use it. She can maybe build a credit history. Will she get the credit? Perhaps not.
No, and she won't even get minimum wage.
I think that is something policy, banks, regulators, everyone has to work on this aspect. What do they get in return? And I'm only talking about the financial aspect. Forget about civil utilities or whatever.
And sorry, like to ask you another question. Do you think there is a cultural aspect to it as well?
Of course.
I worked with BISP for a bit and I know for a fact कि जब हम औरतों को कहते हैं कि open up an account just to get the cash transfer,
Yeah.
they don't even have that liberty to open up an account for
Of course, because men consider money very often a male domain.
Exactly.
Okay? A lot of the accounts sometimes are opened, but the checkbook sits with the man.
Yes.
They own property, they really cannot do much with it. There's all of these things. A lot of good work has been done, more is needed. So that's what I have to say for this.
Thank you. Over to you.
So I would agree with a lot of what Seema said. I think there were sort of points which were in my head as well. First of all, the fact that women's labor is really largely undocumented. It's totally not seen. Traditionally in academia, we talk about 3 roles of women. So there's the reproductive role, her productive role, and then there's a community role. She's the one who brings the community together. Shadiyan, Eid, events, that's all, holding the community together is often the woman's role. So, and these are all part of your economy in some way or the other. So she holds it all together. So I think that's largely does not factor into these statistics. In terms of the barriers to women, I think agree with you that sort of formalization of women's labor is really important. Recognition that the reproductive role is a critical role, the caregiving role is a critical role. There's a whole economy around care economy. But I think what I would like to add to it is also her perception of what she can do. We have seen in our programs a huge transformation because from a very young age, it's not something she sees that I can also be part of it. I can have my own business. I can grow my own business. At best, women see themselves as supplementing a household income or trying to work in a case where the husband is just not working and therefore she has to do this as a necessity.
Yes.
But that perception of I am an economic actor in my own right and I have the right to earn money and to grow my business or grow my career is not one that most women have. So how can we change this perception, self-perception? Because once that self-perception comes in, we see her being able to actually overcome some of the barriers. Right? She will go out and seek credit, or she will go out and seek. But if she doesn't see that as being her role, as being an economic actor who grows a business, it limits what she does.
Exactly.
She relies on others. So I think there is that self-perception, but that self-perception comes from an external. It's not going to grow inside her automatically. Our society does not give her that. The norms are not giving that perception to women that they too are economic actors. The education does not provide that, right? So she sees herself as going into only the reproductive role. So I think there's a lot to be done in terms of those norms, that perception of what women can do, that would really change the status quo for women.
Bilkul, and I think that's true for all socio-economic classes. It's not just true for maybe the lower class. It's true for even the upper middle class and upper class also.
Yeah.
The perception that you mentioned. So I think that's thank you so much for mentioning that. Over to you, Habib.
No, agree completely with what's been said so far. And I think to me, if you were to ask me, what is it that one aspect that needs to change, it's that social restrictions that we place upon women from a cultural standpoint. We put them into these roles, and then when they go on to enter the workforce, then it's always plus the role that they do. It's not just that, it's plus. And they have to then think about a career keeping their social obligations, cultural obligations in mind. Now, that places a lot of burden on women. And then you combine that with the working environment, which they enter into, in which the working environment is not sort of geared for the baggage that women have to carry. It does not support that structure. And then it sort of limits the ability of women to progress in their careers once they do end up in the formal workforce. So two things. One, obviously, the social construct needs to be reviewed, looked at, create that space, recognizing perhaps that, all this undocumented support that the economy gets from women is recognized formally, creating that space for women to work and creating an environment in which they can work and excel. So I think all of these things will need to be done in parallel.
Yes, exactly. And pertaining to what you just exactly said, and I have a question specifically for you, because you're from the corporate sector, right? And even though you have worked in the corporate sector briefly, you have worked, not briefly, extensively, you have worked with the State Bank as well. So I'll ask you a separate set of questions. आपसे मेरा एक specific सवाल था कि when you are considering, your organization, or perhaps since you're so senior, mashallah, you're looking at hiring or employment from a perspective of like a consortium of, of sorts. आप किस तरह से देखते हैं gender empowerment को? Do you look at just maybe कि 50% औरतें होनी चाहिए, रखो, we get a bunch of CVs from LUMs and let's just hire them, metaphorically LUMs बोला है मैंने, not insinuating anything, but or do you actually sit with your team and think through कि is it actually going to empower women if we hire people just from the top tier universities, or we need to go deeper a bit in terms of how we hire, how we structure this whole program? What do you?
So there are several questions in that question. So I think the first one is just the overall number, percentage, how many women should be in the workforce. That is not a tick box exercise. When you're looking at a workforce, you need to make sure that you're hiring the best people for the job. Generally, you also need to ensure that there are people who can contribute to the organization. If that means looking harder to cast a wider, diverse net to get those applicants in, then you do that, because you have a limited sort of head count, and you want to make sure that you're getting the best people to fill that. And then you take those decisions accordingly.
I think leadership and the quality of what role they come into is also really important, because I think it's easy to get women into a lower tier job. And that tends to happen because if you follow, I totally agree with it. It's not a number game. If you have lots of women, but they're at the lower ranking fields, you're not really changing much. So it's like throughout the organization, what is the role that women are playing? Right to the board level. We have some good, I think you've spearheaded a lot of good stuff around boards, around women's representation. That's the level that you really want the representation to be, as well as the leadership. So that's important too.
Yeah. Just to add, if I can, in my previous organization, when I started working there used to be a number that we would try to ensure that all our investees, or the investees of my previous organization, would get to over a certain period of time. That you have to get to a certain level of women employment, and that's how we were progressing the development impact agenda that was part of the ethos of that organization. But the realization came that companies were able to make those targets by hiring women at the sort of the lower tier jobs, low quality jobs, but not so much at different levels within the organization. So what we ended up doing eventually was broadening that goal to include the various tiers. So not just focusing on just one number, but again to set benchmarks, go across from board to the junior most role in the organization to ensure that there is representation across, not just in one type of job scope.
And I have the same question for you, but coming from a policy angle as well, right? So when it comes to looking at this particular issue, not just from the corporate sector, but also as a policymaker, as a leader? People look up to you. How do what is your thought?
Both Habib and Kamala spoke about it's not just a numbers game. At the State Bank, when we launched the banking inequality policy, we found out a lot of very interesting things because we did a lot of research. The team, it's a superb team actually there. They did a lot of research and a huge amount of consultation with many groups, right? And I spoke to many banks. And let me tell you, I'll contradict you, it is a numbers game at that level. There was one bank, which I'll remain nameless, who said, we don't keep women as a matter of unwritten policy because हमारा माहौल ठीक नहीं है. Meaning our culture, our environment will not give them the respect they need, so therefore we won't keep them. Okay? So these are certain mindsets we encountered when this was launched 2021, not long ago. When we launched it, we put in, therefore, the State Bank has many tools at its, many tools. And there's what they say, and I'm not a central banker, but they talk about the role of proportionality, right? Whatever you do should be proportional. And the first mandate is always to protect depositors' money, obviously. But in developing countries, financial inclusion is an extremely high priority. So this policy was actually launched and it gave mandatory targets for the number of women in the workforce. Mandatory. Without fines, but mandatory. And my role was to just relentlessly follow on that. Okay? Foreign banks already have their own policies, and they were excluded. Citibank, for example, have their own very good diversity policies, like Habib spoke about. But for the banks here, the numbers were important. It even became important for the State Bank itself because we set a benchmark, and even the State Bank itself was below it. So we worked very hard to bring those numbers up. In banks, yes, it's very easy to get women tellers. But now I can just talk about a little bit about the effect of that policy. And it had a number of pillars, not just hiring. It was number of bank accounts you open for women. It was having women's champions. It was having sensitivity training. There were 5 pillars which you can look at. And I won't repeat. But the number of women with bank accounts increased from 11% in 2015 to 52% now. So I think there is a difference, okay? It made a difference. The hiring in banks for women went up by 47%. Okay, it may have a low base effect, but it did go up, and a lot of them are quite close. And this bank that said we don't take women is taking women now because the State Bank says so, right? They can't. The regulator is very powerful. The banking regulator is extremely powerful. The SCCP, where I'm on the policy board, did the board thing, and I hope it goes further as independent, not relatives. All of those things are needed. But now I'm looking forward to Banking on Equality version 2. Okay, and that is in the works, I'm told by my colleagues. And they're very kind to me. I call them up and kind of push them along. When is it coming? I want to talk about it. So it should be relatively soon. And it is going to focus again on targets for actually lending to women, which then will make it far more meaningful, right? And those targets continue for hiring and so on, and women's champions and special women's products. Yes. The main core of this policy is gender neutrality doesn't work. You have to be gender intentional. Exactly. And that was the core. And there's a lovely group of people there who do this work, and you must meet them, honestly.
Inshallah, we'll invite them over.
You must, because they are passionate people. Yes. Okay?
And so I saw a lot of similarities in, what all of you said. And there was one particular aspect that I've picked up on, and I really want to talk about it, कि आप सबने जिस एस्पेक्ट की बात की है when it comes to what is actually blocking the overarching goal of in financial inclusion कह लें उसे या women empowerment कह लें labor force participation कह लें, there's a layer to it that is more related to the cultural aspect and also the perception that women have, right? Our own psychology is a bit twisted because we don't want to give ourselves that role of leadership. जैसे आपने बात की हम हमेशा
I would not agree with that part. You can't victim live.
yes
I mean, if I'm born into a household which is not built that kind of thinking in, that's not because I am not.
exactly.
So I think we have to be careful that we don't go there. I think women have not got access to education. They don't have the access to role models. They don't have, all the opportunities that are not given to them.
And also,
so if they come out of it thinking that they don't deserve
no.
It's,
so
it's
what
not.
I mean to say is that the culture is sort of bringing up these women in these tiers, not even these tiers, every tier, making them feel like they're supposed to do certain things and certain things are just add-ons.
Sure. I mean, what is the value of a woman? It's how she looks,
Yeah.
how well she runs her home,
and the number
how
of
good
children.
her children, number of children. That's the value.
Yeah.
I think all of us still feel that value. I have to look after, make sure my home is good, and so I think very few men would say, okay, how my home looks is important, or how many children I'm having, irrelevant to their identity.
Exactly.
But for us all, that's very much a valued aspect of who we are.
And I have struggled with this particular mentality for the longest time because everyone who used to meet me would ask me, oh, what are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, yes, I'm working with the development sector. I'm actually on the board of KPRA. And okay, all of that. But are you married? You haven't still gotten married? You haven't
Yeah.
partner नहीं मिला क्या हुआ क्या मसला क्या? And I'm like, okay.
No.
मेरा CV देख लो. I struggled with that mentality for so long. And so my next question is again like, how do we tackle this particular aspect of it, like the cultural part of it, right? The psychological part of it. That how do we
Okay.
make these women realize that they're more than just a
Okay,
wife or a
so
mother?
if I can just take it slightly differently, I don't think we should be sort of forcing women to think that if they are at home, there is something wrong with them. Okay, because
Exactly.
there is nothing wrong with that. It is a matter of, if it is a matter of choice, or if it is a matter of your family's choice, then that's perfectly acceptable. I would never say that I am better than a woman who is a homemaker because I went out and worked and made money. It is her complete choice. What is important is that you should have that choice. In some homes, that choice is not actually allowed. And I would very much hesitate to spoil the atmosphere in the home by going to her and saying, or going to her husband, father, brother, whoever, and saying, let her do this, right? So it is a role that comes in with education. It comes in with time. Culture is not something you change in a jiffy. I can tell you that. And these cultural norms, people talk about, I'll change the DNA of the organization. I just always think it's a load of rubbish. DNA changes over a huge, long evolutionary period, and you don't change DNAs of societies in 3 seconds like this, right? It takes time. It'll take education. I'm very happy when I go to places where women work, like doctors, and they do hijab. They're perfectly good doctors. Yes. Let them do it. That is their choice. I must have my choice. They must have theirs. But the choice should be there. I'm very sad when they all go to medical college and then they don't use the skills. I feel that it's a huge waste of government resources. But women have to understand through education, through schooling, through their families. And really what is working like magic, I think, is social media.
Yes.
They have access to it. As long as they have a smartphone, or they can have a TV that goes across many channels, or just a smartphone. And that smartphone population amongst women is growing, right? I have a female cook at home. She's completely illiterate, right? But she now has a smartphone because I insisted that she get that. And she is happily listening to music, and she's doing all of this. She's looking at recipes, and it's transforming. When she goes to other sites, she will find out what other women are doing. And she told me, मेरी सबसे बड़ी ये ख्वाहिश थी कि मैं पढ़ लिख जाती, right? She wanted to be literate. If women are not literate, that is a mindset fundamentally that needs to change, which is literacy and then financial literacy. Because that will, and social media will do it for us. The telco companies will do it for us. So I think that change will just happen, actually, honestly.
If I may interject, I think there's another unfortunate reason why things are changing. It's just basic need.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
so much poverty that people recognize that if a woman can earn money, that money is valuable to the family. So I think that also is changing. I think the concerns are now from parents and brothers. It's more around safety, security, किससे बात करेगी. It's not about her earning money, and women cannot earn money. I think
Yeah.
that's
the
is kind of
yes.
no longer a it's a
Absolutely.
non-issue now.
Yes.
Everybody is
Yes,
money.
yes. पैसे आ जाएं,
पैसे आ जाएं.
पैसे आ जाएं, मगर ये देख लें कि किससे बात कर रही है.
किससे बात करेगी. Those are more the concerns. Therefore, still that preference for very traditional roles for, job like silai kadai, teaching, and those preferences are there. But money, no.
And let me tell you, it's the more conservative men who are more open to this. In all my career, I have seen people who are, I shouldn't bring this up, but perhaps I will.
आप क्या सोचते हैं इस बारे में कि हम साइकी कैसे चेंज कर सकते हैं, कल्चरल चेंज कैसे ला सकते हैं?
So I know it's basic education has to happen. I mean, I was actually quite disturbed. I was in Islamabad 2 weeks ago and talking with many various sort of stakeholders, donors, etc. And everybody's moved away from education. It feels like education is less of a priority now. Jobs is a priority, which is a good thing, skills and jobs, etc. But that focus on getting kids into school feels like there's less focus on it. And I think perhaps part of the reason is because your global donors are feeling that, okay, humne kafi push kiya, it's not moving, the needle is not moving, let's try to solve the problem through another approach. But it was very disturbing to see it, because I think until the kids are in school, until girls are in school, you're just not going to win on any front. You just won't as a country. So really going back to that, it's a basic argument about education. It has to happen. Otherwise, we will remain in very bottom tier jobs, and we will provide just those bottom tier jobs for the world. But if we want to really solve our economic sort of growth and challenge around, we have to do that education.
Exactly.
So that has to happen. Perceptions, like I said, are changing. The role models exist. We have one right here.
Yes.
So those role models exist. Social media, very valid point. They're seeing their friends on social media. We're seeing each other on social media. It makes you feel like I can do this too, right? It's not just Benazir was amazing and great role model, but it's also your neighbor. It's also your people who are on social media and have a public face, and that makes it very doable for everybody.
Yes.
So I think these are the things that are changing, not fast enough, unfortunately, but yeah, that's where change I see is happening in perception.
So you've been working for women, and sort of advocating for these rights for so long. When you go to suburban communities, जैसे आपने बात की थी, थर है, बदीन है, even आप southern KP की अगर बेल्ट की बात कर लें, North Waziristan है. I don't know if you've visited some of them. आप करती रही हैं. In these areas, do you see कि change आ रहा है, like the way it is happening in the urban areas, right? ये rural pockets में, do you think कि वो change उसी speed से तो नहीं आ रहा होगा, मगर even at a slow pace, is it happening?
Yes, it is happening. I mean, I'll give you one example of somebody I met in Punjab. This lady, we were sitting in a group and just chatting about the program and how the programs have benefited their business. And just mischievously, I said, "So, is any of you earning more than your husband?" And one of these, in fact, two women put up their hands and said, "Okay, my husband now works with me." So that's change, right? That's
Yeah.
change in your communities. That's fabulous change. So yeah, we do see those examples. They're in pockets. They're few and far between, but they are changing. I remember having this fabulous conversation with this woman who she started with chickens, and then we spent almost 20 minutes discussing the benefits of ducks over chickens. Because she said ducks are much more resilient in my garmi mein, I can keep my ducks on the roof. And so yeah, these are the changes. They're small, they're not going to be overwhelming themselves, but together they make up a sea of change. So yeah, the changes are happening.
Exactly. One more question and then I'll switch to you. I was looking at British Asian Fest Instagram, to be honest, and I was looking at these success stories जिनके बारे में हम बात करते हैं. मैंने पूरी दुनिया से success stories पढ़ी. And the special initiatives that you have for women and for the youth of Pakistan and all across the globe. Do you want to quote one specific story that's very inspiring for you, maybe personally?
Sure. There's one which I remember from a few years back. It was actually a Karachi story.
Okay.
And again, sort of in a group of women chatting about the program. That's what I do. I go in occasionally and chat with the women to see, what's working, what's not working, what's their opinion of the program. Chatting with a group of women. And this particular one was quite quiet. She was silent. You could see that, she's been through a lot. Eventually, conversation turned to her and asked her for her story. And I remember being moved, and still moved me. She said that around 3 or 4 years ago, my husband died and left me with 3 children, young children. And she was educated, but she said I had no job, never worked, nothing. And I ended up living with my, I think, brother or brother-in-law. But I felt awful because I was a dependent, 3 children, no earning capacity, I had nothing. He was supporting me, and I felt very beholden, and it was a very terrible state to be in, having lost my husband as well. And she spoke about how she joined the program, and she did a training, a 6-month training we offered on Montessori methods. So she was already educated, so we gave her that ability to actually be a teacher in Montessori. And she said that now I have a job. It was just a 6-month intervention from us. I have a job. I have a steady salary. She said my children are now and I are living independently.
Wow.
And my children are all in school. And I know that at the end of the month I will have a paycheck. And I know how to manage my own self. And she said that's all it took, 6 months of an intervention. So yeah, that's transformative, right? For not only herself but for the future generation that she works with. So
Wow.
small stories. These are all small stories.
That's
Right? These are not
amazing.
big lives, but these are small lives. But they are great lives, right? So
Thank you so much for sharing.
no, thank you.
On that note, sorry to keep you waiting. Moving on to, and again, question वही है कि how do we change that cultural aspect and layer of the society norms that we have?
Education, I think, is something that needs to be there. Unfortunately, as Kamla also mentioned, Pakistan's spend on education is declining, and that for various reasons. But that will not help in solving for this problem. But education is definitely an area that we need to work on. We need to celebrate role models, and social media can amplify that. I think we have a lot of role models, 2 in the room, 3 yourself. We need to celebrate the fact you were able to achieve what you have achieved, despite challenges, because conditions remain what they were. Probably worse back then. Now maybe slightly better. But you were able to go through, access, or create those opportunities because of the strength and courage that you all possessed, and were able to take on leadership positions and not shy away from them. I think that we don't celebrate success much in the country, and I think that also is going to help in creating role models, get people to aspire to achieve similar success. So I think that's something that definitely we need to work on. I think the other thing, as I keep saying, is the working environment, and that also needs considerable work still to be done on. And I think the fact that, and at least on the banking industry, the work that Seema initiated when she was at the State Bank, in terms of pushing banks and increasing their employment, increasing their reach, is great. And I'm hoping that 2.0 sort of builds on that success and gets banks to create products, create solutions which are targeted for women. I think that also distinction, in terms of gender neutrality and gender intentional, it's because of the history, right? So we've created products, we've created those opportunities, we've created those lending opportunities, keeping one set of customers in mind.
Yes.
That's why it's gotten to where it's at. That needs to change. Intentionality, and I always struggle with that word, will try to, and it's not the word, not the concept, just the word, is going to drive that change forward.
May I?
Can I just?
Okay, sorry, should I? I want to add one more thing. We will never get there until we do something about our population growth. Okay? Yes?
It's a pain point.
It's a big pain point because resources are stretched and women's lives are stretched. Women are anemic. And it's cultural, but Bangladesh has managed it, right? And our fertility rate is far higher. And unless we grapple with that and allow, and people should understand that they have 2 kids, it's good, they have 3 kids, it's good, but if you're having a child every year or whatever, you are going to have some serious issues. It may be because they're very poor, they need more people to work or something, but unless we come to grips with population growth, and I know it's not easy, but if Bangladesh can do it, so can we. They are a Muslim country as well. So that is something without which our resources, our GDP growth will all go to waste.
Exactly.
And I think many people in government are well aware of that.
आप कुछ ऐड करना चाहती थी? And then we can
Yes,
move
I
on
wanted to actually speak about the fact that the work around, sort of the work we do, all of us talk. What's really interesting about this group that you've got together is that it is talking about it from a mainstream perspective. As sitting as a non-profit, we often sort of sidelined कि हम, इस sector के लिए काम करते हैं, but बाकी दुनिया अपना काम करती है. Banking लोग banking करते हैं, policy makers make policy, and you go work with this. And that's really what is wonderful to see, that the conversation has moved over time.
Yes.
And similarly, funding, I'm going to give a plug for Habib, for Citibank. They've supported us for almost 10 years
Wow.
in this work. Seema, through her own, supports this work in so many ways. So it's no longer a side issue that non-profits or NGOs का काम है कि औरतों के लिए कुछ करें. It's not that issue anymore. This is mainstream. This is being talked everywhere, in every sort of high level strategy, policy platform. And I think that's very important. The funds have to follow, which they don't always follow. And I think there is a dearth in funding for this work. But it's good to see that it is now getting the importance that it needs.
Yes.
But just to add on that, if I can, it has to move beyond a CSR conversation. Right now, you're sort of looking at it from a non-profit lens, and obviously organizations like ours, some others, may be providing that funding to create the work that you do, to give support. But having women in the workplace is a good to have. It's a must-have.
Exactly.
I can also add to that, there's now growing research, okay, that having women on boards or having women in the workforce begins to deliver better commercial results. Okay, there are studies by McKinsey and many others I won't say, I would be wrong to say that they are indisputable studies. The research is there, and some could dispute it, but increasingly the research, and at State Bank there's a lot of research that goes on, is showing that companies in corporates and countries where women are an active participant do better. So there is actually a commercial reason for this as well. And it's not, okay, I must take women, it's good for them, it's nice, I feel good. It's not that.
And the fact that when it comes to gender gap index, we're literally at the bottom globally.
And we're falling.
We're falling. उससे तो नीचे गिरने के लिए, there is no other option, right? And when it comes to the whole region, even South Asia, we're at the bottom in terms of per capita income also. So it's inevitable. जैसे आपने बात की कि it's a must have now. It's not just a good to have now anymore.
You must. You must. I mean, I go to a country that is almost like a second home, Sri Lanka. Women are on bikes. They don't sit sideways on bikes. That's my pet peeve, if I can say that, because it's so dangerous. It's dangerous. It's simply dangerous. But there's some awful norm that permits and forces women to sit sideways and hold babies. And it is extremely dangerous. And, it's a social norm.
Yeah. I can give you an example of Nepal, where I've been several times in my previous role. You see women managing shops in the city. You may see that in the villages here from time to time, but in the city, most of the shops, at least in the smaller towns and places, you will see women managing them. You see a lot more women in the workforce in Bangladesh, for example, than you do here. So these are countries with sort of similar backgrounds to us. If they've been able to get to where they are, surely we can get there. We just need to change our mindset.
Yes. And I think safety, security is the bottom of the pole. It's the basic necessity that we
Absolutely
need to give our women. There's this theory, Maslow's pyramid, right? So at the bottom, the first need that anyone has is to feel safe.
Yeah.
So if we don't feel safe, women can't work. That's awesome.
Sorry, also, again, the confidence, right, that you can do it. Exactly. And if you keep telling somebody you can't do something, then difficult to expect them to break out of that.
Exactly.
But to give the empowerment at the family level allows for then, these situations to change.
Sorry, I've taken up a lot of your time.
Not at all.
But I'm enjoying this conversation so thoroughly that I kept on asking a lot of questions and, pivoted a bit as well. Just one last question, for any young girl who's watching, जो कि आपकी तरह बनना चाहती है, she wants to be the next Seema Kamil. वो कहती है मैं क्या करूँ? I'm maybe 18, 20. What should I do now to empower myself? So that I actually, make a mark, do something meaningful and feel like I've accomplished something.
So this is also like, is the door open and all of that. But I will, keep it a little bit brief. I don't really like motivational speakers, but there's somebody who said, and it came maybe from religion and then moved to these motivational speakers. And it's something that says that confidence is not the absence of doubt, but to move ahead despite the doubt. Now, women tend to doubt themselves far more than men. They are just brought up like that. They're socialized like that. Even if they are in very supportive families. And the lesson I would like to teach them is that one. But in a form that when I've started working, I was thinking that I must behave like the men do. Okay? I thought that for a few years. And it was very uncomfortable for me. I didn't like it. But, I was in a foreign bank and they're all the men club and I must enter the men's club. And they talk in certain ways and, tell certain jokes which are not for women and so on. And it made me uncomfortable, but I felt this is what I must do. And I must, in the old days, if you were corporate banking, you must entertain and you must do this. And, it's a party world. And then I realized after some years, and the world has also changed, that it's not so important. And you should be yourself. You're a woman, you be yourself. Okay? You don't have to change into a man. You don't have to tell their jokes. You don't have to When I realized that, then I began to come into my own. Okay? And not when I was trying to turn into the man. So I think the organizations have to be far more female, if I can put it that way, rather than male as they are now. So, ये लेट नहीं बैठती, इसको किस तरह ले लें, right? So that no, लेट नहीं बैठेगी. आप इस तरह काम दें जो 5 बजे ख़त्म होगा, because उसने घर जाना है. या आप डे केयर दें, which I pushed for, या आप flexi time दें, which I pushed for in the State Bank. I've also pushed for diverse panels to interview. Always one woman must be present to interview. So these are small things, but they make differences. So don't turn into a man is what I would say. Be yourself.
What about you?
So I would say stay the course. It's small steps that grows you over time. So stay the course. There will be pressures when I know I really struggled when my kids came along to stay in my job, stay in my career, and I had to find ways of working from home or taking time out to study. But I had to find ways, but stick to it, because if you let it go, it becomes more difficult to keep going. So find those allies who will help you in those days when things get tough. For many women, it's when they get married. For others, it's when the children come along, it's elderly parents. There are all those external pressures, which are the multiple roles that I talked about earlier, when women will be they'll be passed over, or things will get tough in work. Stay the course. Find the people who will mentor you. There are mentors out there who will believe in you. Find them and stick with it.
Thank you. And for you, I'll twist the question a bit. What is your advice for men who you think, should have certain qualities to be more supportive of women, maybe at workplace, maybe culturally, at their own homes, for their wives, for their spouses? उनको आप क्या advice देंगे? To be more like you, and it's a fair thing.
No, I think it's just you have to realize that women are equal contributors in everything that happens. Whether it's at home, where I feel always, and I'm told, if I don't feel it that way, that women play an outsized role at home. Men don't play that aspect. So when it comes to the workplace, you have to recognize where women are coming from. It's the same set of social challenges that are there in your home that women face are there in the workplace. So you have to make sure that the workplace is supportive, creates a conducive environment for women to excel. So I think make those changes that need to get done for them to be able to work and contribute. I think that's the one area that I would focus on. So in terms of advice, if I can just pivot to that question also, I think it's important to also break out of comfort zones. Sometimes you start believing that this is a world that you live in, and this is, you're going to find an opportunity in the space that you are in. But if you don't step out, you won't know where the opportunities are. And any opportunity that you get in any professional situation that is a step up from what you're doing will require you to get out of the comfort zone. So you have to do that. You have to be able to break that glass ceiling yourself, and it can be broken.
Yes, absolutely true. One correction, I'm happily married. So I mentioned the question people are asking me that why are you not married? That was
some time ago. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Glad to hear it.
But I thought that my husband, when he watches this, he will feel a bit left out and he will say, okay, why did you say that? But no, I think that it's the cultural support we get from our family, from our fathers, from our colleagues, from people like you, that make us feel empowered and that make us feel comfortable to talk in a space like this one. Like, I felt so comfortable talking about every single issue that I have faced personally from all of you, because मुझे नज़र आ रहा है how passionate you all are. Despite being so senior, you can easily say कि हम नहीं करना चाहते इस topic पे बात. But all of you are volunteering to be a part of this conversation because you actually want to change something, right? And thank you so much for that. I'm extremely grateful.
Thank you.
To all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. We enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.